Hello, this is François Auréard, NanoSIM's product manager at Camica in Gennevilliers, France. This webinar is the second part concerning elemental mapping in cell biology. We will first show application to nano objects in cell, like nanoparticles or nanorad, and in a second part illustrate mapping of specific molecules, like antibodies or others, through elemental tagging. With this slide, we will enter in the field of interactions of nano objects, nanoparticles, with cells. So, food-grade titanium dioxide containing a nanoscale particle fraction is approved as a white pigment. It's called E171 in Europe in common foodstuffs, including confectionery. But there are growing concerns that daily oral TiO2 nanoparticle intake could be associated with an increased risk of chronic intestinal inflammation and carcinogenesis. So this study has been based on model small nanoparticles, NM105, and the food grade E171. Rats were exposed orally at human relevant level. So then the NanoSIMS was used to image titanium distribution in the immune cells of Peyer's patches. So for those non-specialists, Peyer's patches are lymphoid follicles in the small intestine. And at the end, the message, the output message was that this data should be considered for risk assessments of the susceptibility of autoimmune disease and to colorectal cancer in humans exposed to titanium oxide from dietary sources. So rats were exposed for 7 days to two different types of nanoparticles. And what you see first is the control. So the rats that were not exposed to the nanoparticles, and you can recognize clearly the cells with the nitrogen for the protein and the nucleic acid with phosphorus, and you see no titanium oxide signal. Then in the second row, you can see the model nanoparticles, and you see that cells are invaded with the nanoparticles that can cross barriers. And the food grade is the same. You can see clearly nanoparticles in these Peyer patches. In both, you can see that you have titanium-rich zone in the nuclei of cells with highest density in the central zone of Peyer's patch. The study compared the difference between surface epithelial cell and Peyer's patch cell. So in the surface epithelium cells, we do not see on the control titanium oxide particle in the cells, that's normal, coherent, but we see a faint signal of titanium oxide particles in the cell nuclei. But in contrast, in the central zone of Peyer's patches tissue section, whether with the food-grade nanoparticle or with the model nanoparticles, we can see titanium oxide dioxide nanoparticle inside the nuclei of the cells. So the immune cells, the nucleus of the immune cells is enriched with titanium in contrast to epithelial cell nuclei. We see titanium correlated with the phosphorus positive chromatin, meaning that the titanium is really inside the nucleus. So these data were part of studies that led finally to the interdiction of the E171 whitening agent in food processing in France. Let's switch to silver nanoparticles. They are extremely present in many products, hence are one of the most present nanoparticles in the environment. Ionic silver, Ag+, is known to be toxic towards a variety of organisms in aquatic and terrestrial environments. And this article by Ryoseki et al. In ACS Nano 2017 illustrates the usefulness of correlating different types of microscopies, each bringing its own level of information. Here, dark field optical microscopy under aqueous conditions, scanning electron microscopy, and nanosims. So here, in electron microscopy, we first see control cells, and we see this using low backscattered energy at 2 keV, primary energy. Some of the organelles are indicated, the lipid bodies, the chloroplasts, phosphate bodies, or starch granules. Note also marked with arrows, intracellular particles always present in the experiment may be a part of the metal sequestration process. We now see the samples with exposed to silver nitrate, and no nanoparticle is visible. Now, the nanosims images were recorded on these algae exposed to silver nitrate. We see 6 images recorded simultaneously. Secondary electron emitted under ion bombardment, then CN, so cyanide, sulfur, phosphorus, silver, and molybdenum oxide. Secondary electron and CN, protein and biomass, are consistent with SEM images. Silver signal is very weak, if you count only, and does not show any nanoparticle presence. Background might come from a contribution of molybdenum carbon, possibly. Okay, so here we do not see any nanoparticle on these experiments. Now we see algae cell exposed to the smallest nanoparticle, 10 nanometer size. And the SEM images at 5 keV does not show great or clear signal. So lowering the impact energy down to 1 keV show better signal, reducing the interaction volume with the nanoparticles. And we see, zooming on these particles, that their size is well of the expected dimension. But at 1 keV, chemical analysis by EDS is not possible. So we have an image, a topographical image, but no chemical mapping. So now let's see the nanosims elemental images of algae exposed to the smallest nanoparticles first. So these are positively charged tannic acid coating. And here we see the CN in red and silver superimposed in green. So the smallest 10 nanometer nanoparticle, tannic acid coating. And we see also at 60 nanometer size. And in both cases, we see bright silver fringes around the cells, so on the surface of the cells, the external membrane. It is particularly evident in tannic acid silver nanoparticle exposed cells. Now, with the differently functionalized nanoparticles, polyethylene amine coating, we see for the smallest nanoparticles some internalization in different few particles. And this is true for the smallest and the largest. So in general conclusion, it's quite useful to combine optical microscopy for live cells, scanning electron microscopy for localization and metrology, dimensions, and nanosims for the chemical identification. And this combination permits to complement dose response studies in nano-ecotoxicological investigations. Let's switch to a different element and different nano object. So gold nanorods, and for this we will use a recent paper of Dewey O et al. In Nature Nanotechnology in 2018. So gold nanorods are one of the most widely explored inorganic materials in nanomedicine for various applications. And it has been shown that these rods are not cytotoxic and localize within cytoplasmic vesicles following endocytosis with no nuclear localization. But other studies have reported alteration in gene expression profiles following exposure to gold nanorods. So, small detail on the fabrication of gold nanorods. If the gold nanorods are synthesized with non-covalently bound bilayer of CTAB, gold will dissociate under physical condition, resulting in significant cytotoxicity. So this can be overcome by exchanging CTAB with a thiolated analog MTAB to enable covalent interaction between the gold surface and pendant thiol groups, resulting in highly efficient non-toxic cellular internalization. So in this study, 2 lines of cells were exposed to various nanorods or nanoparticles to understand toxicity profile and cellular internalization of the objects in the cells. And the role of the nanosims in this publication, it has enabled gold mapping distribution, and it has revealed leaching into the nucleus of gold at concentration not detectable by TEM or other high-resolution imaging technique. So let's start with this MCF7 cell line and MTAB nanoparticles. Here you see in blue the nitrogen structure of the cell, so protein mostly, and the nucleus is delineated by a white dotted line. So you see in red and in green, the nanoparticles, in green gold, and on the image zoomed on the right side, on the middle side of the screen, you can see that gold stays outside the nucleus. And if you extract a line scan from the pink line, you see on the right side in a logarithmic scale the concentration of gold, and the gold doesn't enter the nuclear region. So that's okay. Now the same mapping was done with a different gold-containing chemical, treating the cells, and result is a very faint gold signal. Okay. Now let's switch to the cases of cells treated with the gold nanorods. First on the HEK293 cell. On the top row, you see the control, and as expected, you don't see any gold in the cell, no nucleus. And the treated cells, you see in red and green the nanorods that are internalized, but just staying outside the nucleus membrane. Similarly, on the second line of cells, MCF7, the control does not reveal any gold penetration, but with the gold nanorods are staying just outside the nucleus and along the nucleus membrane. So that seems to confirm that the gold cannot leach into the nucleus. Well, if we zoom now on the NanoSIMS image and the gold image, and we extract the line scan, we can see that indeed gold is penetrating inside the nucleus at some distances, maybe to 100 or half a micron, and we see this in green, away from the nanorods. And if we look at the second cell line, MCF7, it is the same. We see on the right side, you see the gold line scan moving from 1,000 counts to maybe 10 counts inside the nucleus and going down. So what we see here, we can localize gold leaching into the nucleus thanks to the high sensitivity of the NanoSIMS. Because we have such high sensitivity visible in the logarithmic scale, we can reveal such penetration and internalization of the gold inside the nucleus. So taken from the conclusion of the article, by mapping the intracellular chemical speciation process of gold nanorods, we show that the commonly used gold-thiol conjugation, MTAB, which is important for maintaining the noble or inert properties of gold nanostructures, is altered following endocytosis, resulting in the formation of gold thiolates that localize in the nucleus. Furthermore, we show that nuclear localization of the gold species perturbs the dynamic microenvironments within the nucleus and triggers alteration of gene expression in human cells. Concerning the technique itself, in this study, the NanoSIMS is unique in combining the high elemental sensitivity with excellent lateral resolution, and evidencing through images and line scan gold internalization in the nucleus. But NanoSIMS provides trace element mapping, but does not provide chemical bond information. So in this article, it was brought by XPS analysis at larger scale. So in this part of the webinar, we will illustrate what we can do with elements when they are used as tracers. So this is taken from a scientific paper from Michelangelo in Nature Medicine from 2014. And one of the limitations of immunohistochemistry done with optical microscopy and fluorophores is that there are spectral and spatial overlaps, and it's not possible to use many colors, so many antibodies in parallel. So the method that was developed here or applied here is to tag antibodies with isotopically pure metal reporters. In this article, rare earth elements were used as the metals. So the method called MIBI, for multiplexed ion beam imaging, is applicable on formalin-fixed paraffin embedded, here on human breast tumor tissue section. that were stained with 10 labeled simultaneously. So this method is quite a generic method to use tracers attached to specific molecules and to map the distribution of these molecules through these tracers. So similarly to immunohistochemistry, the tissue section are stained with antibodies, but each antibody, specific antibody, is labeled with one metal, specific metal, or specific isotope of one metal, and is analyzed with the nanosims. So the nanosims can collect 7 masses in parallel, and if we move the magnet or move the detector, we can analyze 7 other and 7 other as we want. So here, the rare earth elements were chosen for their good ionization yield, and there are a lot of possibilities in mass, elements, and isotopes. What is the strategy to choose an element to use as a label? First, it must have a very good ionization, because we will put only a few atoms of this element attached to the antibody. So if we use positive secondary ion, we will go in the bottom of this chart to get the best ionization sensitivity. So for example, the best element in positive ions are lithium, potassium, cesium, the rare earth elements, some other. If we bombard with cesium, oppositely, we will have a great ionization for fluorine, chlorine, sulfur, selenium, bromine, iodine, gold. But now, a good label must be rare in the natural tissue. So it's not a good idea to use, for example, potassium or sodium or lithium or sulfur that are already present in tissues. So there are a few possibilities, and good ionization and low concentration in the animal, the plants, is given by a few elements, rare earth elements. On the left side is one choice, one possible choice that was used for this paper. So let's see the mass spectrum of these rare earth element conjugated antibodies. We see that when we superimpose all the individual mass spectra, they have no interference, no crosstalk between each of the elements. So it allows a lot of parallelism with these type of monoisotopic rare earth elements tag. It has a good ionization, so it's very good for a tracer. The STIMS technique is quantitative at low concentration, and this is the case. And it's compatible with formalin-fixed PFFE paraffin-embedded sample. The nanosims resolution will allow 50 nanometer resolution, lateral resolution. And in this study, 9 tags were recorded, plus aluminum. So here, see the result. We have here 9 antibodies that were detected in parallel, and they match well the validated standard immunoperoxidase staining, optical microscopies. So this is a method allowing a higher level of parallelism with a good lateral resolution down to 50 nanometer on the nanosims. Now, one can, it's not only limited to rare earth elements. It's possible to use different molecules with different tracers. And among the numerous papers that have been published, and for this I want to highlight that a compilation of all the publications of the nanosims is available as an Excel spreadsheet on the website of CAMICA, so you can download it and filter by keywords all the articles and applications. So here, in the previous example, rare earth elements were used with O- primary ions, but other articles have used cesium primary ion, detecting negative secondary ion used as tags, like bromine, iodine, gold, in different chemical form, fluorine, osmium, and boron. Boron generally detected in positive mode. So, just to recap, it's not a technology limited to rare earth elements, but any high ionization yield element can be used, and high parallelism is achievable. So, the conclusion of this webinar on elemental mapping. The NanoSIMS 50L is an original ion microprobe combining mapping of trace elements inside cells and tissues with a lateral resolution down to 50 nanometers. The measurements can be quantitative with the use of standards. The analysis is performed under vacuum, so on dehydrated cells or tissues. Sample prep is very similar to secondary or transmission electron microscopies that are often used as correlative imaging to resolve nanometer scale intracellular structures. The unique couple sensitivity versus spatial resolution of the NanoSIMS permits to localize molecules containing specific elements or nanoscale objects inside cells, inaccessible by other imaging techniques by lack of sensitivity or selectivity. Attaching or substituting a few atoms of well-chosen elements or isotopes to antibodies permits to perform immunohistochemistry or map specific molecules down to 50 nanometer resolution. An Excel spreadsheet compiling more than 1,000 published scientific articles containing NanoSIMS data is available on Chemica website, so you can download it and filter by keywords, subjects, journals, countries, etc. Thank you for your attention.